All right, hello everyone. Welcome. This is SharePoint Power Hour. It's good to have you today. SharePoint Power Hour is our weekly show that we do every Wednesday at 11 Central. And Power Hour is just all about solutions in SharePoint and how to do things without writing code or nothing super custom, and being able to knock things out and be able to be more efficient in SharePoint. We've had about, I don't know, I think this is episode 98. So we've got a whole episode out there. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is my team of SharePoint consultants at Rackspace Hosting and Rackspace Consulting. And we've got a whole list. We've got this YouTube channel, of course, that you might be watching right now, and it's SharePoint RAX is the name of the YouTube channel, and we put a whole bunch of, every time we do a power hour, it's just recorded and it stays out there. So today's episode is going to be Ryan Keller here doing some fun branding stuff. But just in the meantime, we're going to do just a little housekeeping information and just get everybody introduced. If you are watching this in YouTube, you will have a link to the Google Hangout, a little yellow link on the YouTube video, and that will take you over to the Google Hangout where it has a Q&A. So if you're watching this live and you'd like to ask us questions, that's the fun part. That's kind of one of the reasons we do it live, so that we can have that great audience interaction. So once you get over to the Google Hangout, you're going to see some little squares at the top right corner. And default, it will show this app called Showcase, which is where we can share links with you. But the other app it lets you switch to is the Q&A app. So feel free to go in there if you want to at any point and just say hi. Tell us that you found the Q&A. And just keep in mind that you can ask us questions the whole time and just have a nice little discussion going. Also, we have our team here, so we'll go ahead and start introducing people. I'll just, let's see, we'll just go in the order that I see you at the bottom of my screen. So I'm Laura Rogers. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I am a manager of the SharePoint consultants at Rackspace, and I've been doing SharePoint for about, 12 years or something like that. It's ridiculous. And let's see, let's go in the order of Corey, then Kevin, then Ryan, or then Tanya. And then when Ryan goes, he can just start doing his demo. So.
Okay, so I'm Corey. I've been doing SharePoint for probably about 10 years now. Work at Rackspace. Pretty new still, kind of green, hence my lower third. And yeah.
Kevin's laughing.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Hughes, SharePoint architect here at Rackspace on Laura's team, and my role on the team is that I interact with our customers to figure out what they need from a business perspective and technical perspectives, and then figure out how to implement solutions for them in SharePoint, and then work with the rest of our team to get that done. I'm based out of Kansas City, and coming up on my 1-year anniversary here at Rackspace.
Woohoo! Congratulations. So that's on the 6th, everybody. So get ready to congratulate him.
I'm Tanya Kaiser. I'm also working with the last couple of years, so I'm actually based at our headquarters in San Antonio, the castle, and I run our internal SharePoint environment. So I get to see every day a lot of the same problems that our users and our customers experience. We're going through legacy migrations, SharePoint 2007 and 10, so I get to deal a lot of those special little issues that come up when you migrate to 2013. And again, I've been with Rackspace for about 3 years and working on the SharePoint team for about a year.
All right, I guess that means it's my turn now. Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Keller. I am the branding guy here on the SharePoint team at Rackspace, and if you've been watching this for any amount of time, that means that you know that my job is to make SharePoint pretty. So that means that today we're actually going to look at some way to make SharePoint pretty. Let's see if I can get the screen share thing going. Hopefully everything will cooperate. All right. One moment. Sorry, things aren't quite working yet.
And also a suggestion that we've gotten before, I don't know how easy that will be on the fly, is to make your resolution a little lower for the screen you're sharing, and it just makes it easier for the watching it later
Good
on.
point. Let's try doing that real quick as I'm getting things set.
So Ryan's going to do the SharePoint color palette tool for us today, show us, and that is a free download. I'll go ahead and put that link in the little showcase app that you guys will see over. Let's see. Let me go ahead and get that. It takes a second to show that. All right. So if you guys look and flip over to the little app that in Google Hangout that looks like a little price tag, that's where I posted the link to the free download from Microsoft of this color palette tool, and that's what you can download that and install it and be trying it out while you're learning from Ryan today. And I also put it in the, you're looking at the YouTube video, it's in the description of the YouTube video, the link to that. So
awesome, thanks. Is the screen showing for anybody yet? Hopefully it is.
no, not yet.
Not yet. Awesome.
It's just black.
Cool. All right, let's try again. Screen share. Screen 2. Share.
There's your face again.
Hey, good.
Yeah, I think it's got like an extra prompt, and a lot of the times I forget to click on it, where after you click share, you have to click like OK again or something.
Says it's sharing.
Oh, yep, there it is.
There it is. Cool. All right, let's see here. Let me see if I can reduce this resolution. It looks like it jumped back up.
That's a fun little background you got going there.
All right, let's try this guy here. Keep changes. All right. So today we're going to be talking about this guy, the SharePoint Color Palette tool. And like Laura said, you can download it directly from Microsoft. Here's their download page. If you forget the link, can't find the link on the Showcase app or in the YouTube page for whatever reason, the easiest way to find it is just Google SharePoint Color Palette tool, or go to Microsoft Download Center and search for SharePoint Color Palette tool. It comes right up. Download it, install it. It's just one of those next finish kind of installs. Nothing fancy about it at all. So anyway, what do you get when you actually install it? Well, you get a blank icon. Wow. You fire it up, and this is what you get. Boy, this might make my screen gigantic. It doesn't even fit anything now. So this is what you get. Not too fancy looking, honestly. My suspicion actually is that this was probably an internal tool that Microsoft built for themselves as they were building 2013 and their composed looks and all that. I have no evidence to back that up, so don't quote me on that, but that's just my suspicion, and then they just decided to release it to the community because they're nice like that, I guess. So anyway, what is this thing? Well, it kind of looks like the little composed look preview in 2013 that you go through, and essentially that's what it is. It's a way to build a composed look or a color scheme for your site without having to muck around in XML. So let's just take a quick tour of this. On the left here, you can see that we've got a bunch of different color blocks, and they call them buckets. So they're basically buckets of color. In the middle here, you obviously get your preview. On the right-hand side, you can see that there's a few other options for setting your color previews. This is what actually will show up in your composed look as you're selecting what composed look and what color scheme you'd like to go with your composed look. Check out how it would look with the background image. We're going to go through all this. It'll make a little more sense. You can do a little contrast test to make sure that, for instance, if you have darker text on a darker background, your contrast is good enough that people will be able to actually read that. And at the very bottom here, I'm not sure how well that's showing up since my screen's resolution is really low now and kind of squishes everything, but there is an error list box that will tell you as you're going through and changing some of these things to make your color schemes whether or not you're having any, whether or not it's detecting any contrast errors, for example. So we'll take a look at what exactly all that stuff does real quick. So let's just kind of start poking around and seeing what happens. Since there's not, it's not really a super intuitive interface at first until you actually kind of start digging around and think, that's kind of a nice little product they put out for free. Right up at the top here, you can change your layout to, by default, it just brings up the Oslo master page. We can change that to Seattle and see what our color scheme would look like with the Seattle master page, which is the default master page that just about everybody starts out with. So we can see that. They give you a couple other options to take a look at, say, the contrast test, which will show you a preview of your various background colors and the text colors on what will be applied to different areas of the site. So, for example, we've got the body text on, the background overlay, or body text on hover background. Just various pieces of the site that make up the color scheme. So you can see as you scroll down, it just gives you basically just a light preview of what everything's going to look like. So here's your hyperlink followed color, navigation colors on the background overlay color, the search URL, the green text that shows up in the search sites for the URLs of where items show up. Then we can switch over to the UI preview. Scroll back up to the top here, and this is just kind of a zoomed in preview of what various things on the site will actually look like. You can see up at the top we've got the suite bar, the right hand side of the suite bar for, say, where your username would show up, the rest of the ribbon colors, what color your site icon is going to look like. This is if you're assuming you're keeping everything out of the box. This would be your search box here. Scroll down, we can see the list. Excuse me, what color things are going to show up as if you hover over items in your list. What various content looks like. What all the accent colors look like as you're working in your in your pages and you're picking colors. These are kind of the default colors that are going to show up, and just various other components like the tiles that you can use, or this also applies to those tiles on the site contents page. Various other items. Here are some buttons, more input text like the search box, some paging, and some tables. So that's kind of just a real quick preview of what everything looks like. So how do we actually go about changing some of this stuff? Well, that's over here on the left. So we can start expanding these different color buckets and seeing, okay, well, bucket 1 means, let's see, well, there's the active hyperlink color, the top bar pressed color. So basically, when you press a navigation item, it gets a little bit darker blue. All right, well, what's in bucket 2? Emphasis hover background. What the heck does that even mean? All right, bucket 3, navigation hover, navigation accent, sweet bar background. Oh, okay, well, I kind of recognize that. There's the sweet bar background. What happens if we just change it to, say, red? Oh, okay, cool. So that's how it starts. Things kind of start to come together there for you. Let me go ahead and undo that real quick just to kind of keep it from looking completely hideous right off the bat. And these buckets aren't super useful unless you're looking to recolor a whole block of items all at once. So you can see not these buckets group stuff together that may or may not be completely related. Like we've got accent text, emphasis background, header navigation, hover text, sweet bar background. So they all apply basically. The same color applies to all these different things. So that gives you a way to easily recolor a large group of things at once, but it's not super easy to see where, if I want to color my sweet bar, for example, or recolor my hover, it's not super obvious where that's actually going to show up. You could probably look and see, match the color up. Maybe this quick launch item hover is maybe bucket 8. If we expand that, hover background, yeah, that's probably it there, by just kind of matching up the colors.
So do you put obnoxious hot pink colors and things in there just to be able to figure out what goes with what sometimes?
I do actually. I was actually messing around with this yesterday, trying to figure out where some of this stuff was actually applying, and that is actually one thing I was going to recommend doing. If you're trying to figure out where something is applying, make it an obnoxious pink or something. Oh, look at that, nav hover. There we go. Now I know exactly where that's applying. Go ahead and undo that. Keyboard's not wanting to work, so we'll just do it like that. But yeah, that is actually a perfect method for figuring out exactly where something is applying. Something really obscure like top bar background. Actually, I'm not sure where the heck that even applies. But lines, header lines, button border. Okay, I could probably guess where that's going to show up, but it's not super obvious unless you make it, say, like a green color. And then you can scroll down and no idea where that one showed up. Some line in the header probably.
It just jumps out at you, right?
Yeah. So there's our helper text. So that's what it means by header line. So the name of these things doesn't always exactly match up with what you might expect. So they conveniently do actually give you a way. Just go ahead and collapse all these. Instead of looking at things in these color buckets, they actually give you a way to change this to, say, the UI groups. So this is a lot more, I think, intuitive way to target specific areas of the site. So now you can see it's regrouped all these items. So instead of grouping them by their color, they're grouped by the UI elements, essentially. So here's most of your text elements. They still kind of break things up a little bit screwy, so you have to kind of click through and see exactly where something might show up. But here's most of your text. So you click a link in SharePoint, it turns that purple color. Well, let's say we didn't actually want that. Maybe we just wanted everything to stay SharePoint blue instead. So we can just paste SharePoint blue into that followed hyperlink color, and now when we apply this, our hyperlinks will still stay blue instead of purple. That bothers some people when they change color like that. So there's that. The other thing you can obviously do is click the color itself, and you get the color picker, which is kind of a nice little color picker they've got here. So you can just adjust each RGB color, red, green, blue. You can change up the hue on the hue slider, change the saturation if you want to.
Yeah, some companies have very specific branding colors that you're supposed to use, and they have actual hex codes in different red, green, blue that is your official company colors, right? So
exactly.
We have like Rackspace Red, so that's really helpful to be able to do that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So they you can put the exact hex code in one of these items here. If you know that your sweet bar has to be a very specific blue to match your company colors, you can adjust the brightness and the saturation. And another kind of nice thing they give you is the adjusting the opacity on here too. So if you just want a little bit of red, the text would be a bad example to adjust the opacity on. But for example, if you're messing around with say a background color, or you want the sweet bar to be transparent as well, you can adjust the opacity of it, so it will basically be see-through, just kind of like some of the other UI elements are. So especially effective if you have a background image applied. You can still see the background through your background image through the background colors applied to some of these other items on the site. They also give you a nice little color picker, eyedropper. So you basically can grab, click and hold, and then you can move your mouse around, grab whatever color you want on your desktop. Like if you
have your company webpage, like if
exactly.
I pulled up like my company's public website and I just wanted to go grab a color off that, I could just go look at that in another window and do that?
Exactly, and sometimes they'll have companies will have a color guideline sheet or an image with splashes of all their official colors on there. You could just pull that up and eyedropper over to the whatever color you wanna grab, and it'll pick up the exact color you want. So that's pretty helpful. So what if you don't want to actually go through and spend time messing around with every single one of these options here? I mean, there's a ton of different things. I think there's like 89 different color options that you can mess with. I think I saw somewhere. So there's a lot of things that you can recolor. But what if you wanted to just try something out and see what happens when you kind of just apply an overall color scheme and just kind of let the tool do it for you?
Find and replace, right? I've heard customers say that. Just
find and replace. Yeah.
Find and replace and instead.
Yeah. Unfortunately, nothing's ever that simple in SharePoint. So luckily, they give you this little blue button, or this little color button right up top here. So click on that guy, and you get your color picker. But now you can pick a color and kind of recolor the whole site with very little effort. So let's just kind of do a green just for fun and see what happens. Pick my green color. Let me actually switch this back to one of the master page previews here. And let me hit, click on the recolor button and see what happens. Look at that. It kind of just actually goes through and applies variations of this green color all over the site. So it's colored the sweet bar, it's colored the logo area, it's colored my list shading. Now if I go to my UI preview, you can see there's a sweet bar. There's it's applied some color to the navigation. Applied that green color to my what would be the search box area and the border. There's the list shading, the tile shading, the tile background color. Pretty cool stuff. So down here, you'll see all of a sudden we've got 23 warnings, though. So what these warnings are basically just contrast. If you actually look at this, it says warning, contrast ratio. So the current is, it's basically just giving you a ratio of the contrast for certain areas of the site. For example, this is error text, gives you the text color. The background is the selection background.
Like you don't want to have like beige text on top of a white website. People wouldn't be able to see it.
Right, exactly. So they're basically saying that it's somewhere in here, probably one of these hover colors here for some of the buttons. The text is a little bit dark compared to the background, so maybe for let's find the buttons bucket here. So the button hover background, maybe that's a little bit too dark. If we change the luminosity of that or lighten that up just a tad. Okay, and let's go up to edit and say refresh errors or hit F6. I still have 23 warnings.
Well, we get the point. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, but that is So it gives you something to just kind of look out for. This one here actually is one that almost always you're going to have to do something with. This nav item disabled. That's up in the sweet bar bucket. Sweet bar disabled text. It's basically almost the exact same color. So if I change that to, let's just say white.
So is the sweet bar what we know as the top nav?
The sweet bar is that colored bar at the top that has SharePoint, and sometimes you'll see your sweet bar items like the link to OneDrive and sites and other stuff. So that's what they're talking about with the sweet bar. So we can change that.
So when you did the recolor thing, if you had picked a darker color in the first place, it probably would have been easier to have like higher contrast because it just would have already. I don't know. I'm just pondering.
Yeah. It's not perfect when you recolor stuff, so it does. It gives it a pretty good shot, but you do tend to end up with some warnings. So I recolored everything to a really dark blue, and now I've only got 11 warnings about the contrast now, which is a pretty good improvement over 23. A lot of it just happens to do with some small areas like, you know, the shading on this probably it's complaining about. Usually it happens to do with stuff like this, like the buttons, and the hover and the pressed color for the buttons. So you'd want to adjust the text color probably, or your background color for some of your buttons as you hover over. It just kind of takes a good guess and what your actual color is, and then it'll usually just darken stuff up automatically for things like the hover and the pressed color. I'm sure there's some formula they're using to figure that out. But you know, if we're happy with this color scheme, we can actually go ahead and save that. I think I'm actually going to change this to like a brown or something because it's fall, and we'll do like a fall theme or whatever. So let's just change this to like a brown. I think there's already a brown one anyway, but what the heck. So look, now we've only got 10 warnings. That's awesome. So we like this brown. Let's just go with that. All right, we're gonna make brown, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually save this now and see what we can do with it. So I go ahead and click on save. It's going to ask me where I want to save it. I'm going to call this custom brown. It's going to save this as an SP color file. And essentially all that is, if we open that up with Notepad, all this is just an XML file, everybody's favorite language.
Yuck! I don't know any of that. I don't really need to know that to be able to use this, though, right? It's just
no, you don't. This is this. All I'm showing here is what it's doing. So essentially, the theme is just a big XML file. You can see it's got the various items on here: your body text, your subtle body text, strong body text, all the different components of the site that are getting recolored with the color scheme here. So let me go ahead and just minimize that. So that's all that it's doing. I should point out too, as I'm going through this, right over here in the preview slot, this is the color scheme, the colors that are showing up in that little color picker. When you go to
show us that in the website so they'll know what you're referring to?
Exactly, yeah. So let me just pop that open real quick, switch over to my site, and go to site settings. So in here, change the look. I'm sure everybody has looked around here. So if I click on, just say, you know, orange, here's the color
We're not
picker.
seeing your screen, Ryan.
Oh, dear.
I can see it, Tanya.
Okay, now I see it.
Oh, good. Okay. So this color section is what is being built right over here in this preview slot. So when you click over here, you know, you're selecting the various color schemes. So you can actually change this over here. So right now it's just using the background overlay color as this larger preview, which is kind of useless because it's blank. Then it's using the body text color for that for the second color, and then the accent text bucket, or the accent text color for this third color. So if I wanted to, I could actually say, you know, let's just make this really easy to find. Let's, I don't know, say my, for that first one I want to use the tiles, or button, you know, button background, or button hover background. Let's just see what happens there. Oh, that's white. Yeah, but you kind of get the idea. You can pick whichever color over here you want to actually show up. So maybe we want, say, let's do the sweet bar.
Wow, they're not even in any kind of order in there.
They're not. It's super annoying.
It's a free tool.
Sweet bar background. There we go. Sweet bar background. So now it's very brown, very obvious to see. You know, if we upload this and go ahead and apply that, it'll be very obvious. Okay, we want to look for the color picker that's all brown. So maybe we'll actually just go ahead and resave that. Overwrite it, sure, cool. All right, so now let's just switch over to the site and see what we can do here. Go back to my site settings, and we are going to want to open up the themes folder here, the themes gallery.
And so is that the root of the site? That's the root of the site collection?
This is, yeah. So I'm at the top level of my site collection here.
Do
so
you
you're going
have
to open
to
up.
have publishing enabled, do you know, to be able to get to that?
You know, I don't.
I can go double check it.
So
I'm not sure. Yeah.
that was actually one thing I meant to look at to double check, and I completely forgot to do that. I don't think you need to have publishing enabled for this, since you can do composed looks on a team site. So essentially, what you're going to do is open up your theme gallery, open up the 15 folder here.
I just double checked. You're right. You don't have
Cool.
to have publishing enabled.
Okay, I didn't think you did. Thanks for checking. If you've applied themes before to your site, you're going to see this themed folder. This is just some folder that it throws various files in as you've applied themes to the site. So if you have never applied a theme to your site, you're not going to see this themed folder. But pretty much you can just ignore this. Your theme files are going to go in the 15 directory within your theme gallery, and you can see there's a lot of different files in here already. There's a lot of font schemes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. A lot of different palettes, and essentially these are just exactly what we built. They're XML files, or they're SP color files, just the XML files that tell SharePoint what components of the site to recolor. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag my custom brown theme right into this theme gallery. Cool. So it's there. So now what? Okay, well, I can go back over to site settings, change the look. Now I can just pick, say, orange. And oh look, there's my custom color scheme. Cool. Awesome. Well, what if I wanted to, instead of just making that just a color scheme that I can apply to any of these, what if I wanted to, say, try the sea monster guy out and then do my custom color scheme? So it still kind of works, makes everything brown, still get the background image. But what if I actually wanted to go ahead and make it an option to appear in this list? Well, in that case, all you need to do is build it as a composed look. So let's take a look at that real quick. So go back to site settings. We've already uploaded the actual color scheme to the themes directory. Now we actually need to build a composed look. So we'll go to the composed look gallery, and this is just a list that SharePoint uses to make those various composed looks available. So you can see there's the orange one. There's our buddy the sea monster. You can see all the other options that they've got, and really all it is just giving it a name, telling it which master page you want it to apply when you select that custom composed look, what the theme URL, or basically the color palette that you want it to use. So in our case, we would do our custom brown SP color. The image URL, that's our background image. So like the sea monster, click on that. There's the sea monster background image. And then if we wanted to use a specific font scheme. So let's take a look real quick just to see what happens if we make a new one of these. So we'll click on new item. We'll give it the title, brown. The name is what actually displays in the composed look gallery. So we'll call this the awesome brown theme. And the master page URL, we'll just tell it to use Seattle since everyone likes that one. The URL for that. I deal
Of
with
course,
this all
Ryan
day
knows
long.
it by heart.
Yeah, I deal with this all day long, so of course I know where that is. So that is just underscore catalog / master page / Seattle.master. The theme URL, which of course I forgot to grab, so I am going to open up a new tab and just go to my site settings, get the theme URL, custom brown. All right, so I'm just going to right click and copy link location, go back over here, and we'll just paste that guy in there. So this guy here, we can get rid of that. You can keep the full absolute path if you want, or you can just do a relative path. The image URL, if we had a background image to apply, we could actually do that here. We'll look at that in a little bit. And same with the font scheme URL. And the other big one here is the display order. On in the Compose Look gallery, they've got all of their out-of-the-box themes going up in increments of 10, which actually makes it kind of easy to squeeze your custom ones in there. So you can give this a display order of 1 or 2 or 3 or 15 if you wanted to go in between 10 and 20. So we'll just give this a display order of 2, just so it's right up in the beginning of all of these guys. So there's my awesome brown theme. So now let's take a look and see what happens if I go to Site Settings, change the look. Thinking about it, there we go, awesome brown theme. Click on that. It's already got the colors applied. It's just using the Seago UI fonts. That's just awesome. The SharePoint default. So there's my custom composed look now, so I can actually try that out. And we'll wait on it. Shouldn't take long, but it always does.
You can do this in on-premises and Office 365, right?
I believe so. It's should be basically identical between the two.
And when you're adding custom themes, is there a way that you can adjust the order so that users will always see maybe your company's branding? That'll always be the first option.
Yeah. So that's all. That's
alphabetical.
Exactly. It's what you set as the display order. So if you really wanted to get rid of the out-of-the-box themes, you could just either delete them or put them somewhere else, and then just have your 2 or 3 or 4 approved themes.
That's what we're going to do, Tanya. We're just going to delete all the out-of-the-box ones and only put all the Rackspace ones that we create.
There you go.
At a minimum, we're going to delete the ones that have black background nobody should ever use ever.
So there's my site recolored with my...
The very first thing people do when they get a SharePoint site.
It is. They come in here, go to Site Settings, change the look. Ooh, I like this one. Lime. No, never use that. So there's my SP theme right there. So what happens if we want to try getting a little bit fancier here? Maybe we want to throw in an image or something. So let's try. Unfortunately, they don't give you a real good option to actually reset this. So I'm just going to close it. And I've noticed sometimes if you have a lot of colors changed and you try recoloring some stuff, it doesn't always recolor everything the way that you would expect maybe. So I found that if you want to redo a theme or start over, they don't actually give you a good way to reset. So the best way I found is just to close out and restart. So we get back to our out-of-the-box SharePoint blue look. It's still grouped by the bucket, so I kind of like grouping it by the UI groups. I should point out this third option, the UI type. It's a little bit more limiting, I guess. They only give you 4 options, and then there's all the text. So I guess in some ways that would actually be a good way, because they do spread some of the text out into some of the other buckets.
I've got a question, Ryan. So I could do File Open in here and just start with go back to the brown one and just change. You could,
yeah. So if I go to File Open Custom Brown, there it is. So
Okay.
Yeah, you can actually go back and start with what you have and make some adjustments to that if you find you need to. Good question. And I'll just go back to here again.
Yeah, you know what this all, I'm kind of pondering this. This is more of a philosophical question. I'm not sure if any of you have ever tried this, but instead of a relative URL, could you create all your themes and have it in one central place, and then as you have new site collections, have them point to like a central location, like in another web app maybe, or wherever it is, where you keep them all?
Probably could. I haven't tried that, but because you can put in an absolute URL, I don't see why that wouldn't work. You might have to rebuild your custom composed look on various site collections, but as long as the composed look is pointing to that, to that centralized location for the SP color file, I would imagine it would look. I don't know. It would.
We
work.
might try that. Yeah.
Yeah, we might have to give that a shot and see. Sometimes SharePoint's a little picky about what it will bring from other site collections, but I don't see why that wouldn't work, since theoretically everybody should have permission to those galleries.
As far as bringing it from other site collections, the biggest thing as far as obstacles to doing that is going to be security on both site collections.
Right.
Because that'll mean that every person on the site, the original site, or the site collection you're applying, will have to have read access to every style, every location in the that has any of these files in the storage location. So that may be outside the security parameters that you want.
That is true. So you would probably have to consider some permissions in that scenario. But in theory, assuming everyone has permission to that one site, it might work. But we'll have to give that a shot one of these days and see what actually happens. So let's try getting a little bit fancier here. I guess let me jump back over to my site here real quick.
While you're doing that, another option, if you're on premises, is to just make sure that your palette files, master page, and so forth are uploaded into the 15 Hive on the server, and then they're still going to be they can then be no longer limited to just a single site collection. They're still referenced.
Exactly. So you could actually
instead of catalogs would be under _ layouts as your server path.
Right. That is another good point. You could actually deploy those to the actual server and then not have to worry about site collection permissions and all that good stuff. One thing I was just going to point out real quick was that you still can, what am I doing here? Change the look, get my awesome brown theme here. You still can actually add images just like you normally would to your custom color schemes here, just through the let me throw in a leaf here and make it fall. So the images still work just exactly the same way as they otherwise would. But let's go ahead and take a look at another option here for what we can do. So let's just kind of recolor everything. Kind of applied a weird yellow to that. I noticed it tends to, especially if you're doing a gray color, it'll pick up some of the colors that are around it. So I'm trying to maybe do like a darker blue here. Still picking gray, but it's maybe has a tiny bit of blue in this in its hex colors. That kind of applies a weird red. It's kind of picky and tricky, I guess, to recolor everything. Let's just go with this. But let's take a look at this background image option here. So we can actually change the background image. Let's do one of my favorites here. Let's do this guy here and just see what happens. So now we've got a nice background image, just like we looked at a second ago. We can change the layout to see what it'll actually look like, and maybe we want to emphasize the background just a little more. So let's take a look at that background overlay color here. So right now they've got a white background that's about 85% opacity. Let's just drop that down to like 65 and just see what happens. Okay, well now we can see the background image a little bit. Take a look at our UI preview here. So wait, what's going on with this? So there's these two sections here, and this is actually something I kind of figured out the other day looking at this, why we've got two preview sections here. So we've got the header with a colored background and the header without a background. So I kept scratching my head trying to figure out what the heck that actually meant, why we've got two previews here, why, if I switch back to Seattle, why it doesn't, if I change my header background color, why doesn't this actually why doesn't this actually change at all? Okay, well, it should be showing up a little bit blue somewhere, and then I finally realized, oh, okay, Oslo is the one that has a header color. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind there as you're trying to figure out what colors are applying where. There are a couple things that are specific just to the Oslo master page or just to the Seattle master page. So the header is one of them, and the navigation is also another one of those. For example, if I change my navigation color from, we'll lighten that up a little bit to lighter gray. If I change that, it doesn't do anything to my my navigation on Oslo. So if I go to my UI preview here, you can see, so there's my nav resting. So that's out of the box, just the default state there. But it's different color up here. That's because this navigation section applies just to the Seattle master page. And again, I'll point out this blue area here, that only applies to the Oslo master page. So that's kind of confusing as you're going through this, trying to figure out what the heck some of these things actually mean. If you want to apply a change to the Oslo navigation, that is, I'm drawing a blank. Where is that? That's in the header section, I believe. So that is the header text. So if I change that to like a purple color, that's not the header text. Header navigation text. There we go.
Of course,
That
right?
changed.
Header text versus header navigation text.
Exactly. So just some weird little quirks that you're going to run into between the two different master pages and the different color schemes.
We've got about 10 minutes left. Was there something you were going to show with icons, I think? Or
Yes. So let's just go ahead and take a look at that real quick. Let's just do it with the brown one since we've already got that one made. Let me go ahead and jump back into change the look. I'm going to reset this back to the SharePoint blue just to do a real quick demo. All right, so if I'm on here and I'm trying to do this, more applies to like a full effort custom branding. In a lot of cases, when I'm doing branding, a lot of these behind the scenes pages, will still want to look like they belong with the rest of the site. So a lot of times our clients will want these icons here to have the same color scheme as the suite bar. So obviously in the out of the box master page, you can easily do that with a theme. But for example, right in here, say I want to change, instead of SharePoint blue, let's just change it to disgusting lime green. And whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So all my tiles here change to disgusting lime green, except for this guy here. And that is one thing that, for whatever reason, really bugs me when I'm doing branding and I can't make that icon match the rest of these. And the reason for that is this icon here is a big sprite sheet. So they're only showing us this one little piece of this giant image file here. You'll probably notice that a lot of these images look very familiar, like the your arrows for going forward and back, adding stuff, the little edit icon. So they call in various little tiny slivers of this this sprite sheet wherever they need to in the UI. So one thing I noticed as I was messing around with themes is that when you apply, say, my awesome brown theme, everything gets recolored. So if I go to Site Settings, change the look, awesome brown theme, and apply that, da, 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 da. There we go. Yes, keep it. Come on, SharePoint, I'm running out of time here. All right. Site contents. Look at that. my icon is brown. Okay, well that's cool and all, but if I'm doing a full custom master page, I might not be messing around with the themes and trying to fit a theme into my custom master page, since I'm already doing a full-on custom CSS style sheet. So one thing I actually figured out fairly recently for another client was that if I actually create a theme with a similar color, or using their exact colors on a different site that I'm not doing my custom branding on, then I can actually make these site icons colored the same as the rest of their color schemes. So where this comes in handy is, or the way that I can actually utilize this is, I would actually save this image, and let me just go ahead and save that. It's called SP Common by default, and let me just fire this up in Picture Viewer. So here's the out-of-the-box one, and here's my themed sprite sheet. So there's this one, and there's one for social. spsocial.png is what it's called. There's for a lot of the social icons, it'll get themed. So what I would actually do is use this icon sheet, this sprite sheet, in my style sheet, and the way I could actually do that, yeah, that's fine, is with this bit of CSS. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. So essentially, this is getting kind of nerdy into CSS land here, but you tell your CSS to look for the image with a source of SP Common, the out-of-the-box SharePoint Blue image sheet, or the style, or the sprite sheet. Then essentially, we're going to apply our custom image as the background image to that. Give it the same width as the image. So in this case, it's 268 pixels wide. Give it a height of 0, and then we'll pad the original image. So the height of the original image is 271. We just pad that original image out of the way, and our custom image is applied. So it's kind of a nerdy little CSS trick there that you can actually use to replace the out-of-the-box images with your custom themed image. So again, you probably wouldn't really need to do that if you're building just your own color schemes, but if you're doing a full branding effort, that is one way, one trick that I found that really makes that SharePoint color palette tool very useful, that you can recolor a lot of the out-of-the-box icons very easily. Just go through and apply your color scheme, grab those sprite sheets, and then you can use those in your custom branding without having to recreate a lot of the icons.
It's a nice little tip.
So that's yeah, that's pretty much all I had today. So anybody had any other?
So I have a question.
Sure.
As far as the color palette tool, what are some reasons? So why would you create a custom master page and go through all that complexity versus just making some quick color changes with the color palette tool? Like, what do you get with the master page that you don't get with the color palette tool?
It really kind of depends on the requirements of the branding. A lot of times clients are looking for just a quick, hey, this is just our SharePoint. It's just a utility we're using to keep track of stuff. We'd kind of like it to blend in with the rest of our stuff, so let's just put our company colors on it and call it a day. Other times, with a full-on branding effort, we can really control everything about the way that it looks. So we can make it look and behave just like any other website that you would see. So a lot of companies like the idea of making SharePoint really blend with their online presence, or applying their company brand to their intranet, and just kind of anecdotally, we've kind of found that really branded sites that really look like they belong, and they don't just look like something that they have to do their job. Like, it doesn't look like Microsoft Word. It doesn't look like Excel. It actually looks like something that belongs to the company. It just seems like a lot of clients have said that they've gotten more buy-in when it's very fully branded, as opposed to just handing them SharePoint and saying use it. Now, with the 2013 with the 2013 colors, the color composed looks, getting tongue-tied here, you do actually get a lot of bang for your buck, I think, with going through some of their color schemes and some of the background images especially. I think that alone actually is kind of the wow factor. You know, you can see the big difference if I just right here, if I remove that image, plain, add in, you know, a different image, it looks like a whole new site just with that background image alone. And just the fact that you can really adjust all of your colors to really either fit with that image or fit with your company's color scheme, that kind of gives you a lot of bang for your buck without having to put a ton of effort into it. Because I have a couple more minutes, I was actually going to show really quickly how to add an image to your composed looks. So I actually do have some of these images already uploaded into my site. So let's just open up this orange leaf here. Let's just say I wanted a background image on my composed look. So let me just grab the URL of that image, copy that, and go back into my site settings, go back to my composed looks gallery, find my awesome brown, and I'm going to edit that. So here I can actually give it that URL of the image. This is actually super simple to do here. Give it an image URL, and that's actually will apply the background image automatically without having to add it. So if I save that and I go back to site settings, change the look. So right now it didn't add it to it even though it's already applied, because once you apply a composed look, it becomes what's called the current theme. So any changes you make to the composed look don't actually apply to the current site. To what's currently applied, you have to actually go back and reapply it if you make any other changes. So now if I actually go and try it out, you can see that leaf image is already on there and applied to it automatically without having to add it manually, which is kind of nice if you're looking to keep it consistent for everybody. And again, with you know your background images, I think that really kind of gives you a good wow factor for your site without really any effort whatsoever. It just kind of gives it a whole new look. So that's how you do the image. And I think I've got like 2 minutes left. I think I said I was going to talk about the font schemes too, and that's super nerdy, and we can do that real quick since we've got time unless everyone's asleep. So,
well, Ryan, I have more of a question about Office 365. So I know that we have issues with when we have customers that have Office 365 and we do custom master pages for them. There are issues because as soon as Microsoft changes something in SharePoint that they do all the time, it breaks things in the master page.
It does.
Lots of issues like that. So would applying custom themes be able to, would you get around it by having a theme instead of a master page?
You probably would, because the themes are built to work with the out-of-the-box masters. So I would assume that any change they make to the master page, they would also add that change to the theming engine. So, for example, there was a big change to the suite bar and the ribbon earlier this year or late last year sometime. So 365 does not look like this anymore. So they changed the name of the suite bar, I believe, and so any theme that gets applied to that is going to apply to the new suite bar, if they're still calling it that. So you probably would be safer in that regard going with your themes rather than a full-on custom master page. Now that's not to say that you can't do it, but there are some limitations like being able to easily deploy a custom master page to lots and lots of sites. It's a lot more manual process than you can do with a couple of clicks on your on-premise site. But yeah, you can. You probably would be safer going with the theme on the custom master page.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do the font thing if you want to. If it's just like a minute or two, that's fine.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
it's
thought the
it's
Office 365 viewers might.
yeah, that's probably a lot more important than this, to be honest. But if you saw earlier uh, the what am I saying? The font schemes that are part of those themes. So this is basically what they look like. Um, you can actually build your own custom font scheme if you're, say, an evil supervillain and you wanted a custom font scheme to go with your custom composed look that had Comic Sans everywhere. You could actually do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. So essentially, you open up that. What I would do is download one of the existing ones and modify it and re-upload it to that themes gallery. But you can basically tell SharePoint what fonts you actually want to use. So there's your font name, your EOT font source, your WAFs. There's all the various font types. For all your web fonts. There are actually, I'm not going to get into it now, but there are a lot of good resources for building your own custom font schemes. If you actually just kind of Google it, there's a lot of good resources for how you would actually do that, to use like Google Fonts or other web fonts in a composed look. So there are those options too. I just wanted to throw that out there, that you could actually build your own font scheme as a part of that if you're really into that sort of thing.
Awesome.
But that's about all I have, and we're a minute over, and I actually did not expect to drag this on for an hour.
Yeah, I told you could. Jack has a question. Did you blog this, Ryan, about the cool little sprite sheet hack? Because that's really neat, and you're probably the only person that's discovered that. I don't think
have
you blog,
not.
blog it and put it somewhere. But yeah, if you write that down somewhere, then we'll let Jack know.
Sweet.
Otherwise, I guess they'll just have to watch this video and hit pause.
Yeah.
Cool. So just one little quick announcement. There's a online virtual conference called SP Biz. That is SPBIZ, that is coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll be presenting at that, and it's just go Google it, SP Biz, and it's out there. You can register. It's free. And it's October. Oh, let's see. What is it? Go find that real quick. spbiz.conferencehost.com, and it's slow. Okay. It's no, I'm sorry. God, see, I keep getting mixed up because it's Collab 365 is the name of the conference. It's the same company that's doing it, so I keep getting the names of those mixed up. Sorry about that, guys. It's Collab 365. So sorry about that. Collab365.conferencehost.com, and it is October 7th and 8th, 24-hour conference, virtual online. All right, we got to go. We'll see you next time. Have a good week. Bye, everybody.
See ya.